Okay, so with that, take a breather. Audience of citizens, any comments, questions, thoughts? And again, we don't have a hand raise in this Zoom, so if you'd like to, just start speaking up and we'll try and get you. Hearing none. Okay, we will get back to that for later on. Moving on, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Board members, I think we're all muted.
Motion.
Yeah, Tim's got his hand up. All right, Amanda, is that a second? Yes. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, say aye. Hand up there so we can see everyone. All right, motion approved. Okay.
Chris, if you just, I'm going to abstain because I wasn't at either of those meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we have Rosemary there, correct?
Yes, I am here.
Aye.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Rosemary.
And I thank you. I just got called out. I skipped over liaisons. How could I do that? Interboard liaisons. I was looking through. I think we have Mr. Hines from the Board of Finance. I think he's the only other board member I see here. Bob, any Board of Finance updates you want to talk about? No, you're muted. Nope, still muted, Bob. Bob, can you hear us? You're still muted. There you go. Okay.
Okay, the Board of Finance had a meeting just prior to this meeting, and we approved the changes that everybody was looking for in the budget, which will help you guys out with what you need. And that's about all I have to add.
Okay, so that's the budget that the council will discuss again tomorrow evening and then vote on at their following meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Have we gotten any information through the town manager about the financial impact that absorbed through this? Like tax collections or?
We not really, because everything is depending on the final vote tomorrow on the final budget they'll approve the next day or two, because that's when they set the mill rate based on that budget that gets approved. And until then, they're not really sure, but Jeff Jilka can basically answer any questions you have along those lines to the best of the knowledge he has. If anybody has a question like that, don't hesitate to call him. He's been very forthcoming with anybody, and to be honest with you, he's the one person who really knows everything about the dollars.
Mark, just to give you an update, Mark, just to give you an update, and other board members, the town council will be discussing their plan at tomorrow evening's budget meeting. They will be proposing a 0 mil increase, and they will vote on it at a special meeting on Monday, June 15th.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Union rep, I see Mr. Schlansky here. Good evening.
How you doing?
Good.
Not a whole lot to report, just wanted to get as many members to attend tonight's meeting for the retirees, and also I'm trying to get as many members and also even CEA members that live in town to attend tomorrow night's town council meeting.
Great,
That's
thank
it.
you.
You're welcome.
Now we can go around. We'll start with Mary Clark, Director of Curriculum. Some updates.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I think at this stage in June, we are intensely focused on concluding the 2019-2020 school year in the best fashion possible. So there are a number of events going on throughout the district to recognize and honor student work and accomplishments throughout the year, and to try and keep and maintain as many traditions alive for students as we can. And so from the third grade dance all the way up to graduation, those things are underway. And I'll let the principals talk about that because that's really been their focus. I think in addition to that, really hand in glove with that is looking at what the teachers need in that process. And so we've been focused on all of the nitty gritty of wrapping up their instruction between this week and next week, and how to do that while simultaneously collecting a tremendous amount of resources back from families and giving teachers access to their classrooms. So that's been a bit of a balancing act that we've been crafting, and I'm really proud of the work that the teachers have done all along and continue to do even in these final days. Teaching and learning continues and will through next week, even with those competing demands. In addition, we are being very proactive in preparing for what will come out of the budget process and working to ensure that we're ready for preparing for next school year, even as we're in the midst of these final celebratory events and defining our teaching and learning practices from a distance right down to the last day. We are also very much looking forward to what this will mean for 2020, 2021, and how to ensure we have the right tools for our teachers moving forward, as well as really considering what the needs of our students will be when they return. So we're just in the preliminary stages of that work from designing that, but we're getting all of the groundwork laid. And so I think also in the last 2 weeks, we've been very focused on the larger needs of our community and society, and ensuring that our schools are reinforced as safe and welcoming environments. And that's a conversation that we have as educational leaders and as community members. And that's a conversation at large in the educational community. So really a lot of different content right now, but I am confident in how our year will conclude and how we'll be able to plan forward for our students, families, and community.
Any board questions in there? Okay, thank you. Now we'll go around to the schools. Who's up first? There we go, Memorial School.
As Mary said, it is an exciting time at Memorial School. I actually had multiple windows open and was able to see our grade 3 virtual dance going on. We have a lot of students in attendance. Looks like they're having fun. Tomorrow we have a special drive-through moving up ceremony. Looking forward to celebrating our third grade learners who have accomplished so much and helping them transition to be Center School Lions.
Yeah, at Center School, we started with teachers coming in today on their schedule to make sure they could pack up personal materials for their students. So that's definitely an organized effort, and a big hats off to the teachers for coming in and leading that charge. And like Mr. Gonzalez said, we're doing our best in the environment we have to make sure that students are still celebrated and recognized. It takes a little creativity, but I think what we've put together as a district has been pretty successful thus far.
Hi, everyone. The middle school got to premiere their 8th grade mini capstone last week, which was a huge success. Topics ranged from sports to photography, social and emotional wellness, pollution, homelessness. They were just really, really good examples of, independent student learning. So that was a great culminating kind of activity for our 8th graders. And this week we'll have our 5th grade orientation for parents and students coming into 6th grade. So that'll be exciting. And we will have a promotion ceremony for our 8th graders this Friday as well. So lots of good things happening despite, all of it being virtual and remote.
And at the high school, we're in the same situation. Our teachers started coming in today to, clean up rooms and get organized for the end of our school year. We had our virtual top 10 ceremony last week, and it went very, very well, all things considered. Our capstone evening will be presented on our YouTube channel on Wednesday. Our scholarship evening is Thursday. And then and everything else is about working with our seniors for graduation. Friday, they'll be coming in to return their Chromebooks and textbooks, and we'll be handing out caps and gowns. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be a memorable graduation ceremony. That's that I can say for sure.
Yes, it is. Quick question for you, Eric or Matt, for the high school yearbooks. I know I've gotten a lot of questions about that. Are they ready? When will they be? How's that going to work?
So unfortunately, when everything shut down, the yearbook company, which was in Texas, shut down as well. And the latest ship date we have is mid-July with Mrs. Flannery. So what it's unfortunately, but we have a couple things we're planning to get, especially for our seniors, teachers to have opportunities to sign kind of a handout that the kids can slide into their yearbook. So we're working on that the last couple of weeks of school. And Mrs. Flannery and I are working on a plan. Once they come in, we'll put up a couple tables at the high school. We'll invite seniors down. And our goal was to make sure that every senior that wanted the yearbook got one, regardless of financial situation. So if any senior wants a yearbook, we have one set aside for them. So we're going to make sure that's taken care of. And unfortunately, it's going to be mid-July.
Yeah. Wow. Too bad.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Chris,
Mary,
if I could just, I'm sorry to jump back in, something I meant to mention that I just want to share in this forum because it reflects some really positive partnerships. I think as we conclude the school year, one of the things we're promoting is really, we do every year, but in particular this year is summer reading for students. And at the K-8 level, through a partnership with the East Hampton Elementary PTO, as well as the East Hampton Prevention Partnership through Youth and Family, we've been able to organize funds to ensure that each student can get a free book credit at a virtual book fair that we're holding. So we're also, encouraging students to take advantage along with the Governor's Reading Challenge and our own internal summer reading documents, but we've also been able to partner with those community organizations. Our summer reading work that we'll be sharing with families also has us partnered with the East Hampton Public Library for summer read aloud series. So that's also exciting for our students and families to take advantage of. Our high school is doing curbside pickup where students can take books out of our East Hampton High School Public Library. And a East Hampton High School student has also put together a community book drive where families are just, books that they're ready to get rid of, they've turned those in, and families are going to be invited to come through this Wednesday and next Wednesday and be able to pick up free books. So I think that just reflects, again, all of these, different groups within our community supporting each other and understanding that important academic habit that we hope we can encourage over the summer months after all of this distance learning.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Communications, go over to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick updates on distance learning. Next week will be week 13, the final week of distance learning. It is hard to believe that our school year, 13 out of approximately the 40 weeks of school, will be spent in distance learning. It's just been an extraordinary experience. With the decision that Rodney and I and the principals made, we have decided that our extended school year, our special ed summer school program, we are going to continue to do it in a virtual manner rather than bring children in. We received guidelines from the state on opening your schools for summer school. We just felt it was on a number of fronts, perhaps too early, and the guidelines were just so restrictive that for our neediest learners to be successful, we just felt was impossible. From being the first ones to show up to school with masks on all day, no more than 5 students in a room that can't connect with other students, buses that we would have to pay for a bus monitor and put 1 kid per row. It just seemed restrictive for our neediest learners and restrictive for common sense at this point. We will be doing ESY online, and we'll continue to provide what I feel will be a very positive program for students. And I think most schools are leaning in that direction just because rather than experiment on our neediest learners, it just makes sense for the 5-6 weeks of summer school to continue virtually and then plan for a reopening, whatever that looks like, in the fall. One of the things that the governor has told us is that even if you don't open for summer school, or if you do open for summer school, you still have to give access to your building for recreation programs. They have a different set of guidelines that they need to follow. Their guidelines come from the OEC, the Office of Early Childhood. And so our park and recreation program is struggling to meet those needs and those expectations. We will be using the middle school for our recreation programs this year. What that takes form, how that takes form will depend on registrations and other programs. But we are not allowing any other programs. And I know Jeff's wife has been very involved in YIPCA, but the restrictions on, one per adult per 10 children in the program, and the 10 children couldn't interact with any of the other children. We just felt it was going to be too restrictive. It could not end in a performance. And our goal really is to keep minimal use of our buildings and use the summer to really prepare the buildings so we can open up in the fall. Like I said, we don't have guidelines from the state yet on what the fall looks like. But as I've told people, give us the guidelines, and then I feel we have an excellent team in this district who will prepare school. However it looks, we will meet the guidelines. And obviously, and I've said this to you before, our concern is to make sure whatever guidelines come out and whatever plans we make to meet those guidelines, obviously step one is going to be to make sure that we provide the safest environment possible to our staff and to our children. But also within those guidelines, we want to make sure that we are giving academically appropriate days to the students. School may look different, but we've got to make sure that the academics are strong. As strong as the academics are, we want to make sure that we pay attention to the social, emotional needs and the mental health needs of our students and our staff. It's been a long 13 weeks, and we anticipate whatever the guidelines coming back, whether you have to have masks on all day or kids can't eat together in the cafeteria, there's going to be some social and emotional concerns that we're going to need to address. And then, the final expectation is that, this district is committed to making sure that by the end of next year, that all students are caught up and on the grade level that they should be. We know that kids will come in, they might not be up to grade level expectations, but our goal is whatever confines we're given to burst through them and make sure that students by the end of June 2021 are at the appropriate grade level of reading and writing and math expectations. So those are certainly our challenges moving forward. Let me move on to a budget 2019-20 update, and the 19-20 update and the 2021.
Paul, can I ask you a quick question, Paul? Sorry to interrupt. Have you shared getting feedback to the state relative to the summer school and the restrictions and kind of the reasons why you're deciding, and I imagine maybe other districts are as well, why we're not hosting it, just so they are aware that the challenges that it poses to the districts?
Yes, Mark, I've been on, and I've met with, the Commissioner of Education, with 30 other superintendents from the region, and he's heard it around the state. The concern is, the costs and the expectations and our most fragile population, bringing them back in a situation that's not necessarily going to be the best emotional stage for them.
Right.
Yeah, we've expressed very serious concerns over what the guidelines are for summer school. In essence, most schools are not offering summer school. They may be offering it to certain learners that they feel they just can't continue to work with virtually. But I think you'll find that the vast majority of school districts have said, we just can't possibly work with these guidelines. our biggest concern is, what are the guidelines for the fall going to be? And, you know, if you read the paper, people say, you know, things are going to be different. You know, you're going to have 10 kids in a classroom, and, you know, you're going to have half as many kids on the bus. Well, 10 kids per classroom, we just cannot function as
Right.
No school district can function with 10 kids in a classroom. Forget finding, you know, duplicating your teaching force. We can't duplicate the teaching spaces throughout the district. So, you know, I mean, we're hoping that, you know, 3 months from now, look where we were 3 months ago, and 3 months from now, we're going to be in a different place. And we're hoping that guidelines, while we want everything to be safe, they have to be logical to reopen as well. Nobody wants to see schools stay out of and continue distance learning for another couple of months or 3 months or another year. But, you know, I've heard everything in between, from we're going to open with everybody to we're going to open with nobody, and every single possibility in between. So I will keep this board very informed as to anything we hear. We're hoping by the end of June, early July, we will get those guidelines.
Yeah, and that's really the point of my question, is that hopefully the feedback will help dictate some logic and thoughtfulness on the part of the state to recognize there's certain aspects that just aren't functional, and you're not going to, the schools just can't do it the way some of the news stories. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Mark, and that is a big concern. If the summer school guidelines or the fall guidelines, I just don't know how we can proceed logically. But onto the budget update, and both years are. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
Before you move to the budget, do you anticipate that when guidelines come out for the school itself, classroom, and what the day looks like, that it will be comprehensive and also include information on clubs, non-sports activities that happen in the school? Do you expect that would be all part of that, or would that maybe be a later decision and it would just focus on like the school day?
Sure. You know, even the CIAC, the group of educators that oversee high school athletics and middle school athletics, have said, look, the priority is opening school. We'll figure out sports, but let's just decide how we're opening school. And we would do the same thing with clubs and activities. You know, if there are guidelines that say, you know, no more than, you know, 30 kids can be in the same place at the same time, then that's going to restrict some of our clubs. It's going to restrict some of our activities. It's going to restrict what we can do with lunches. All of that we can overcome. It's just, if things are so restrictive that we're limited to, you know, clusters of no more than 10 kids and one teacher, then it's going to be a stranglehold. But our intention is to, if we can bring back, you know, the clubs and the athletics, whatever the guidelines are, we will find a way to make them work for our students. I don't think that we will be more restrictive than the state guidelines. I think we will work with the state guidelines and provide the safest experience possible for our students.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the fall? We will have more conversations, I am sure. But on to budget, just very briefly, because I know most people that are attending this meeting have been to the town council meetings. The town council at this point is expecting us to use what we figure to be a $260,000 surplus in the following manners. They're going to have us buy $100,000 worth of Chromebooks. They will be able to then take it out of $100,000 out of capital and then lower the capital expenses for next year. They're expecting us to purchase $117,000 worth of approved items. If you recall that sheet that I sent you that answered the town council initial questions, we identified $109,600 worth. We're going to up it to $117,600 worth, because in one of the packages, the Newsella subscription, there is, for an additional $8,000, there's a very strong social emotional component that is integrated in curriculum, and we think that's going to be essential for this year and moving forward. So we will pre-purchase $117,000, $43,000, or whatever we have left over. It's more than $260,000. $43,000 will go back to the town into the general fund or the fund balance and be used by the town. You know, that 260 is a moving target. You know, there's a lot of things that you know, could come to play. We don't think it will be less than 260, but if we end up with more than 260, then the town gets that funding. So the budget that will be presented by the town council, it will include everything that the board asked for, the 3 additional teachers, one that the Board of Finance had removed, but that the town council is willing to keep in there, and we will reduce our budget by the $117,000. So it makes your proposed increase about $956,000 and a final budget line of $32,132,300. When the town council was discussing our technology needs, they also felt like they should fully fund the technology that was presented to the capital committee and not include the cuts by the Board of Finance. So in addition to the $100,000 in Chromebook that we purchase, there'll be about $254,000 in capital that Rich already has targeted for about 20,000 in additional Chromebooks, laptops for grades K through 5. And I think he explained that the systems they were using were very out of date for the smart board and the software that we need. Additional Wi-Fi drops throughout the district, and our network filter, whose subscription and ability to function now is at end of life. So that will be discussed tomorrow night. I think if you've tuned into the town council meetings, you've heard this general direction anyway, but I think they felt it was important to present it with a $0 mill increase, let people hear that, and then they will vote at a special meeting on Monday, June 15th. Keep in mind that you will be able to get a 5th grade teacher. Part of the concern that you heard from parents and that they heard were the larger class sizes, especially at center school. So center school will have 7 sections in grade 4, 7 sections in grade 5. You'll have 6 sections in grades K1, 2, and 3. And you'll pick up the world language teacher in grade 6 and the high school math teacher, which is all very positive for us. One of the things you heard at the town council meeting was they were looking for concessions from the various unions. And I know our town manager is working with his unions. I wanted to let you know that the administrative union in our district volunteered with furlough days. And though it's a concession that doesn't lower the budget, it is going to pay for our new manufacturing program. We were able to link up with RAM, as you know, in late February, early March, just as we were settling the budget. It's too important to wait a year, so the administrative furlough day will pay for that tuition cost for our students to be able to attend RAM for, I think it's 2 periods a day. It's an internship type of program. And I think you've heard, if you've attended the meetings, the support for that on the Board of Finance and the town council. So I compliment our administrators. The other thing that I wanted to let you know of, that our teacher union is willing to sit down in the fall and discuss a concession for the 21-22 school year. If you've attended the town council meetings via Zoom, you've also heard the concern because of the surplus that the school has due to COVID-19 and the surplus the town has due to COVID-19, that we can get through this year with a $0 mill increase. The concern is next budget year, fiscal 22, not fiscal 21, but fiscal 22, with the new town hall coming up with payments. So the teachers union is willing to sit down to come up with a concession for the following year. You'll keep in mind last year, the teacher union took a concession. In addition to having the lowest, second to lowest settlement in the state in their contract, they also included a step freeze, which saves 2 teaching positions for us. So there will be no teacher concession this year, but they are willing to sit down and discuss a concession for fiscal 21-22, which actually is going to be more beneficial to the town at this point. So I think Neil is still in the room. Thank you, Neil, for that. What that looks like, we'll worry about in the fall, but they've at least agreed to sit down at the table with us. There's been no other concessions from any town union, but I know Dave is working on that at this point. But between our administrators and our teachers, I think we're in a very respectable place considering that. Anybody have any particular questions?
Yeah, no, before you move on, I just want to, in perfect timing here, and again, thanks, Neil. I know we'll be having discussions and with all your staff, but I wanted to point out, I think the communication between us as a board, you, Paul, the superintendent, the town council, and the Board of Finance. You know, if you look at what they're discussing, it's the budget we proposed. You know, besides all the staffing and the programs that we recognize that needed to happen, also, you know, the other things like the teacher computers and laptops, on how outdated they are and that need to be addressed. So I think the opening up, the listening between the boards is happening. And a lot of that, I think, was mainly due to the families, the parents, and the staff members that spoke up during all those Zoom meetings. It had a huge impact. So I wanted to thank everybody for that. Okay, sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if anybody had any questions as to either year of the budget.
Paul, I have a quick question. Can you tell me what the final budget number is again? A little slower than last time?
Absolutely. So what they will recommend tomorrow night is $32,132,300.
Great, thank you.
Just a quick question. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask or in future business, but I know that a lot of the, Mary had mentioned that a lot of the programs that we're using right now had been free, that a lot of the educational resources online those companies had offered them up for free. Have we gotten any number associated in case we do have to go to distance learning next year? How much those are actually going to cost if we do have to go out of school again? I'm wondering if that we could have that number at some point over the summer, just in case.
Paul, if you want me to address, I can. That several of the tools that Paul referenced in the 117,000 are some of the tools that had been made available to us for free. So we've been working on that, Amy, I think in identifying core resources that we want guaranteed for students and teachers, and those that several we've been eyeing for some time and we've used to some capacity. And we wanted to make sure that in looking at those resources, they're research-based, they're top of the line, they're standard in the industry. And I think when we talk about Newsella or the iReady instructional seats or our early reading program for primary readers, that's all in that 117. So I feel confident that our teachers would have a cadre of core resources. Now, there are definitely additional materials that were made available for free that we wouldn't necessarily have in that group. But I feel that we've secured the critical ones for sure at this point.
And just to mention, the ones we've identified, whether we go to distance learning or not, are great classroom tools. So we're not keeping them in reserve and not using them. Should we not go to distance learning, these will be used in the classroom, and if we needed to go to distance learning, they would also be available.
Yeah, I think that's important to emphasize. They'd be integrated into what we do. If we are in the position to start the school year in school, which is what we're all hoping for, the students would have access to them, and how to utilize them if that's a necessary step, depending on the age level. So as I said, several of these are resources teachers have been asking for some time. So they are great enhancements and tools that allow us to bridge home and school, whether or not we're distance learning, because that's something that we need to do all the time anyway.
Perfect. Thank you.
And just continuing with the communications, the enrollment figures are in your packet. You'll notice that between May and June, there really is no significant change. In fact, there is no change between May and June.
Hey. No presentations. Unfinished business. I don't think we had anyone. Board members, anything follow-up you needed?
Nope.
Okay. New business. We have the approval of the non-affiliated personnel compensation. Paul, you want to just highlight that again for everyone?
I think there's a sheet that explains the increases this year. All of them are between 1.75 and 2%. The one that stands out is the final step of increasing the athletic director's salary to a bachelor step. And what we had done was, over the last couple of years, the athletic director started out as a bachelor's at 50%. Then we moved him to 60% of bachelors, 70% of bachelors. This now completes it to 100% of bachelor's pay. It'll be step 5. And going forward now, you'll just see the regular increases based on the teacher's contract. It would not be this high. With the work of a high school athletic supervisor, an AD, this is a bargain price. Most districts, smaller districts than us, and districts our size and districts larger, the athletic director has become a member of the administrative bargaining unit and is usually paid substantially higher than this. So this was a way to increase the salary rather than going right to a large increase. The goal was to move it up the bachelor scale, but instead of 50%, next year will be at 100%. We've moved about 10% each year. Last year, that step was frozen along with the teachers. This year, it does advance one step.
So question on any of those compensation packages? All right, board, do we have a motion to approve?
Could I just say something?
Yep.
So I think maybe for anybody new, especially Paul, I don't know if you want to make any comments on the rates that are given here. I mean, it's really meant to mirror those of the unions. Yes.
Right. So these are basically the teachers' increase next year is 1.75. The interventionists who are paid a little bit lower, we are doing about the same increase as the paraeducators, which this year is a 2% increase. For the subcommittee, I expressed that due to Karen Acetta's generosity. She's willing to take the increase of the teachers union, and I would rather see that higher. But in her modesty and humbleness, she has taken a lower amount. But that is we have an underpaid business manager in this district, and I think people need to be aware of. We can't keep giving Karen the hometown discount because you could never hire a new business manager for that amount of money.
An award-winning and constantly recognized business manager.
By her peers for outstanding savings to the district. If she knew what they were taking to what she was offering for an increase, they would have doubled the award at this point.
Yeah, they would have yelled at her.
Yes, you're right. They would not be happy.
So do we have that motion to approve? Amy, yes. Second.
I'll second.
Oh, okay. We got a tie there. Nancy, okay, got the second. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor, board members, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, we got a mark aye. All right. Unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Future business, end of year events happening. We've heard a lot of them. Any others we're going to highlight?
I think I skipped over in the superintendent's report graduation, but I think everybody is well aware of graduation on Saturday, June 20th. We typically invite the board, but to practice the appropriate social distancing, we're going to ask board members, with the exception of Chris, to watch it live streamed. And then we'll share all the details with you. But, Eric has worked with parents and students, the Department of Public Health. A lot of school districts just announced what they were doing. Eric had meetings with seniors 7 or 8 times of different groups of seniors. I know I joined him for a couple of the parent meetings. There were 3, 4, 5 parent meetings just to explain what we were thinking. I think with the drive-in graduation, you've probably seen them on TV. The advantage we have, except instead of some drive-in theater, we are able to do it right at the high school and bring the kids right up the front steps of the high school and make it special for them. So we'll hope you enjoy the live stream of that, and it will go down in the annals as a very unique graduation.
Okay.
Hope it stays that way.
Yes.
One time only.
Once in a lifetime.
Yeah, Eric's agreeing to that.
All the notes for the next pandemic in 100 years on how to do graduation in front of the building.
Yeah, Eric and Matt, any other comments you want to add to that about the graduation planning, or kind of still stay tuned as things progress?
I'm looking forward to not having to call Paul every Friday afternoon with the governor's updates saying, can you believe they did this to us again? But we're really excited about it. I feel like we're able to keep a lot of the traditions alive. The bell is really important to the kids. And that was the one thing that every student, said to a kid, we want to be together as a class. So regardless of what it looks like, we want to be together. And I feel like this is the best option for our students. I promised myself I wasn't going to do it, but I went ahead and looked anyway, and the weather is looking good so far. And we're just excited about it. We're really excited about the opportunity. And as I think Mark just said, let's hope it's once in 100 years that this has to happen.
Good. All right, moving on. Audience of citizens, any other final comments or questions? We're going to them, but we still have a few. Anyone?
I'm sorry, I had just one other I apologize. Matt just reminded me, so thank you, Matt. On another thing we just were able to establish today, we are also going to be broadcasting on FM radio 87.9. So people will be able to hear my dulcet tones on the radio. 87.9 on Saturday morning, June 20th, as well as live streamed. So we're hitting all kinds of media with graduation.
Yes. So I'm sure in all the communications going everywhere, you'll be able to communicate all the different ways, whether it's the YouTube,
Yes.
the radio station, all that, so everyone's aware.
Absolutely.
And now we can see Mark Lambert joining us at
It
the
only
end.
took over 2 hours, but I finally figured it out.
Okay.
Mark.
There you go. There's the hair.
Yep.
Looking good. Looking good.
Yeah, it's
All
getting
right.
cut tomorrow.
No other public comments? We didn't hear any? Then we would get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mark, join for that. Second, Martha. All right, motion to carried. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
Everybody.